Good day, students. Let's continue our discussion on arrays. Again, we refer to Practical 1 document in the Week 5 folder on arrays. So in this video, we want to look at how to declare arrays and how to populate arrays. So in Structured Programming Textbook, page 74, paragraph 4.3, you find a discussion on how to declare arrays. There's basically two ways that you can declare an array. You can declare an array without assigning values to the array. So you indicate the data type of the elements that you put into the array, give it a descriptive name as we explained before, square brackets, which indicates that it is an array, and indicate the number of spaces that you will need. On this, it's advisable to rather put more spaces here than not having enough spaces. So the next one here, int is the data type, so all the elements will be of integer type. Array marks is the name of the array, and in this instance you declare 10 spaces. You can also have string, array names, and for this, for instance, you can declare 20 spaces. Other data types can be character or double or any of the valid data types that can be used in C++. So this is one way of declaring an array. If the values that you want to put into the array is known at declaration time, you can also declare the array and immediately assign or allocate the values to the elements of the array. For instance, int array numbers, you indicate that it is an array with the two square brackets, equals, curly bracket, and then you list the elements separated by commas and close the curly bracket and end the statement with a semicolon. So this is only if the values are known at declaration time. Often it's not the case, so then you will declare the array, just reserve the spaces and fill up those spaces later on with code. Alright, talking about that, how to fill up an array, there are several ways. We are going to talk about two ways to fill up an array in this document, but you can also look at page 75 in your Structured Programming Textbook to see the explanation there. For this explanation, if you declare the array without assigning values to the array, normally the spaces are filled with default values of the specific data type. For an int, for instance, the default value is 0 for integers, so the array will be filled up with zeros. But this will differ from programming language to programming language. It's not the same for all programming languages. Then also for instance, string, if you declare the array without assigning values, it will assign the null, which is nothing, to each of those spaces that you reserved. Note, the 8 spaces are reserved, but remember it goes from 0 up to index 7. So those are two ways those are when you declare an array, just to show you that there's nothing actually in the array at declaration time. So how to fill up is the first way, as we've discussed before, assign values to the array. So in this coding that you see in front of you, I've just did this statement beforehand to save time. If I execute this now, you can see the result. I can't really see any result on the screen because what happened here was done in memory. So I won't see anything, but it's in memory, it's done. So let's just make a few mistakes. Let's say I forgot about the square brackets and I tried to do this without square brackets. You'll see here one element. The compiler thinks that array marks is actually one memory space, not a collection of memory spaces, but I tried to allocate a lot of values to that one memory space, which is confusing the compiler totally. So I need to indicate it will be a collection of memory spaces by putting the 2 square brackets. As you know, it works with the 2 square brackets. So let me just uncomment the display statements, which I also did beforehand to save time. It's similar to what you see in your document. Right, let's code it now. Let's compile it now. You'll see, now I can see the content of the array because it's displayed with the for loop. So let's analyze the for loop. The k variable in a for loop is very handy now because it takes us through the index values from 0, then k++ will go to 1, k++ will go to 2, and so on. And then I want to restrict it up to k less than 10. There are 10 elements, but remember it starts numbering the elements at 0, so less than 10 will go up to 9. So the k will take me through those index values. When I display inside the for loop, I refer to the name of the variable of the array, square brackets, and I put the index value, which is 0 the first time, then 1, then 2, and so on. So the for loop is really handy for stepping through the elements of an array. And that's why with the display, the k will take me through, will display all the different elements of the array, as you can see here, and we also showed that to you in our program. So let's say I made a mistake and I went from 1 up to 10. That's what I thought. Maybe 1 to 10, those are the elements of the array. If I run it now, what will my output be? It will start at value 75, which is actually the second value. So because I don't include a 0 in my loop, as I'm supposed to do, it will skip the element 0, which is the first element. Also, it goes up to 58, but because I go up to the 10th element, which is not there, it will show me an element that's not part of my range of or list of values, list of marks. So there's a value that's not really one of my marks because I go beyond the size of the array. Right, so I must start with 0. With an array, I must start at 0, and I must make sure that I don't go up to an element beyond the size of the array, the 10th element. Alright, so let's look at the next example. I'm just going to comment that one because we've looked at that now. Comment, and then I uncomment the next example that we have in our document, which works with strings. The example here, I assign a few names to the string array. Note the double quotes for each name that I list there. It will put it into the array in this way. Alright, so my for loop will go from element 0 up to less than 7. Because I've got 7 elements, it must go to less than 7. The same procedure here. Inside the loop, I will just use k to refer to each of the names. If I run this now, I will see the different names displayed, the content of the array. Alright, so in the next video, we look at how else we can populate an array apart from assigning values to the array beforehand or at declaration time.